So my name is KaZoua. Thank you, Amber, for that introduction. Um, I'm also a mother of 3 kids who are very, very excited about life. So being a farmer and someone who works full time at a nonprofit, it's extremely challenging. So I'm always trying to think of ways to either automate or make record keeping more simplified and better. And oftentimes people come and ask me, how do we create an app or some kind of technology that really helps our farmers be better at keeping record? And honestly, I don't think it's the technology itself or the app that makes record keeping better. I think it's the habit, but that could just be my opinion. So I just have a few tips on ways that we can explore these things and potentially problem solve it together. So why do people keep records? Sometimes it's mandatory. Big River Farms is an organic farm, and so we have to we have to have certain types of records that we keep. And then there's farmers who are very curious about certain things, and so sometimes they keep certain records that are not required by us. And oftentimes it's usually because they're collecting data or they're doing their own cost or market analysis. And then another reason why people keep records is to get funding. So when you are applying for a grant or loan, they often ask for records either the year before or even going back 3 years, depending on the size of the funding that you're requesting. And then keeping records is also very useful for project and program building. So if you're wanting to see how you're going to be scaling up or scaling down, it's good to have your records so that you can go back and look to see if what you've been doing is good enough for you to either scale up, or if you're doing too much and you can't juggle all of that, or you're losing a lot of money, then maybe scaling back is probably the right thing to do. So, and I think the type of records is also useful depending on what your goals are for your farm business. So if you have a hobby, which a lot of the farmers I work with don't have a hobby farm. Actually, the farm that I work at is an incubator farm, and we have about 15 to 20 farm teams that come and farm either a 1/4 acre or up to 2 acres. And so they're working to build their records and their farm business. So one day they can buy farm land and to be able to farm either as full-time or, as part of a lifestyle. But a hobby farm, I'm a little not too married to this concept because a lot of the people that I work with, or even in my community, we just don't have hobby farms. But that's a thing that apparently people have, and that's cool that you get to do that. So another, it's good to set goals for record keeping so that you can help assess on how to increase your sales the following year, or if you want to diversify your products or increase how you diversify those products. And also it's important to set goals on the types of markets that you have. There's direct markets, there's wholesales, there's so many different types of markets that might work better for you. And another thing is like if you want to, once again, scale up, or if you want to add a new enterprise. So currently our farmers, we have only 2 farm teams that have animals at the farm. And then we have more farmers who are exploring, adding grazing on their land. But currently the majority of farmers that I work with have mixed vegetable crops, and we are very small scale. So, just teaching them the skills to focus on growing those types of crops is what we're mainly focusing on. And also records kind of help you see if it's worth moving into a different location or a new location, because you can see that, you have kind of maxed out on what you can produce based on the size of the land or the size of the property that you have. And also allows you to add in staffing and workers to come and help you. Oftentimes, as a farmer, it's kind of costly to have help, but it's also nice to have that help, but then it's also challenging to ask people to just volunteer all the time. I don't have anybody in my family currently here in Minnesota that really farms other than my husband. And the rest of my family, they're in Wisconsin. So, you know, I see my other farmers have their families come and help them farm, and I'm like a little bit envious about all of that. So I really love what the things that Eric talked about really resonated with me, because it made me think about like, why don't we have farmers at the table when we're talking about apps or building systems for, you know, record keeping? So my challenge to all of us is to understand like the skills of why we keep records, like just the basic skills. And one thing that my husband, we've learned this year that we've regretted, because we actually registered our farm as an LLC this year. And that's something I regretted, because I didn't know about this, but for if you have an LLC, you have to do your taxes quarterly. And that's a lot of time. It's time consuming for, you know, it's already time consuming keeping records, but having to like go back every quarter and submit all these things and do your taxes, that is too much. So moving forward, we're exploring different options, but I think those are important things to kind of know, like why the types of skills that you need to have for taxes. If taxes is not your thing, maybe hire somebody to do it, or work with somebody to provide, you know, some of those work for you. And I'm also a farm service agency connector, and I'm learning more and more that a lot of the resources and services and programs that the Farm Service Agency has, they require you to do a Schedule F. And so if you don't know what a Schedule F is, then you're kind of screwed. Like, it's important for you to learn what a Schedule F is. And then as a farmer educator and someone who manages a program, that's kind of like a priority, that we try to teach farmers things that they need to know in order for them to be successful in getting these resources that they need. So just understanding like the basic requirement is super important. I think also putting together like a receipt and paperwork collection system. I think the one thing that it tickles me at the end of every year is when we ask farmers to basically do an in-season report with us. And oftentimes farmers are like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed because I have so many receipts that date back from last year that I need to record. And honestly, they would say that they've lost a lot of their receipts because they don't know where they put it. So I think just finding a location, like a centralized location that you're going to keep your receipts and your paperwork, and setting a time. So you can say, I'm gonna put all of my data into the computer or write it down on, you know, in a central location every other week or once a month, something that like that that's going to work for you. And one way that we teach our farmers to file, so we serve farmers who speak 3 to 5 different languages at Big River Farms. And so it's really challenging to just give them like a template or something that's in English and expect them to know how to fill it out. So we kind of work with them. We will provide, you know, translated materials as needed. But an important thing that I've noticed is to kind of help them understand how to file their stuff so that it's organized. Otherwise, things are just going to be a really big pile of, you know, mess, essentially, especially during the organic certification walkthroughs or inspections. I've had a farmer who bought a shoebox full of all of their records and their seeds and the receipts and everything. It was just like, looked like they just threw it in there. But it's not to say that they're not good at doing these things, but understanding that the requirements for farmers, and like they're really, really busy, and we're expecting them to have all of these things ready and prepared for us when we need them. I think really preparing them and setting them up. So if I know that I'm gonna need it at the end of March, we start working with them now, saying like, hey, I need so-and-so from you by the end of this, you know, this week, so that you kind of help set them up so that they're not scrambling all at once to, you know, present those paperwork or those records for you. So there's a lot of ways to store your records. Like I said, a shoebox is one. File cabinets are a nice way. Computer, not everybody knows how to use a computer, but we do have templates that we allow and that we teach farmers. And one thing that we're trying to do this year is to get more funding to get a computer at the farm so that we can have farmers who don't have a computer access, that they can come and keep their records right at the farm. And other ways that people are doing records are they're keeping it on their external hard drive. a cloud or just an application. But when you do get an app though, I will say you need to check to see that, if you're paying for an app or if you're using the app, that you're able to download that data and take it with you when you're done using that app. So that you're not like tied down to that app and that app just takes all of your data. You want to make sure that you are able to download it on an Excel or on a form that you can take with you. This is just and I'm happy to share this with anybody who wants this, but this was just taken from the business site from the government, and it just tells you like how long to keep the records. I think that's the most frequent question that we get is how often should people be keeping the records? And I think it's really important to just know. And I understand that sometimes receipts, they the ink runs out or whatever. So if you find a best way, like I've seen farmers tape it.
Hey, Kelly. Hey there. Hey, Abby. Hey, Henry.
So the question is it really the technology that farmers don't have to be efficient at record keeping, or is it really the skills that are needed and the behavior? So it doesn't matter if you spend a lot of time or money investing in some kind of technology or app. If you don't have the habit of keeping records, then that's going to be a waste of money. And I think in order for us to make it efficient for farmers, we need to be able to bring farmers to the table to have that conversation. So that's one thing that we do really well at our farm, in my opinion, is that we bring farmers to the table whenever it comes to programmatic changes. We want to make sure that we are doing focus groups, conversations with farmers, and making sure that we are taking their input and listening to their stories and their needs in order for us to be able to inform how we change our program or how we're able to support them. So one thing that is really challenging for us is like our farm store, our farmers, we have farmers who don't know how to use apps at all, who don't use credit cards or Visa cards, they only use cash. So my team really wants to make it efficient and have farmers come and just, use the card or whatnot. But then some of the feedback is farmers just have cash and they want to be able to use their cash. So really challenging my team to be able to create a system that works best for all of the farmers. So they'll be able to use different things. And so it's not so much of like having the best technology or, creating an app that's going to make things efficient. I think it's really the behavior and identifying those basic skills that farmers need to know. And sometimes, honestly, it's not so much of giving them things and expecting them to do it. Maybe they need your mentorship. Maybe they need you to really do some of that hands-on stuff, some of that hard work, some of that one-to-one for a while until they are able to do it on their own. And that's all I have. Feel free to contact me. I have my personal email account or my personal email and also my food group email if you guys want to connect about programs or looking at our program in a deeper way. But then I'm also happy to just connect as a farmer or a partner in this work.